Hi everyone, my name is Alicia Crank and welcome to my new podcast, Edmonds This Week. It is my attempt to help other residents in and around the area to know more about some of the topics and hot button issues that are happening in Edmonds and the surrounding Edmonds communities. So, with that said, this is Monday, March 31st, and there are a couple of really big things happening this week. We're going to start from some of the information that's led up to this, but these are two really hot button items that are happening right now in Edmonds. And so, the first one I want to talk about has to do with environmental, and it has to do with trees. So if you might have been paying attention to some of the stuff that's been talking about with Big Red. And Big Red is this tree that's in downtown Edmonds in this condo complex where it's been kind of back and forth on getting the tree cut down versus saving it. And there's been a lot of contention around it. But news came over the week that the permit went through for Big Red to be cut down. Now there are a lot of people that don't like this. And this is actually going to probably come up actually it's happening soon, but I know that it's being brought up at City Council meeting tomorrow, which is Tuesday, along with another issue that also has to do with trees and the environment, and that's Hummingbird Hill Park. Now, I'm going to confess, I have driven by this place so many times because it's only a couple of blocks from Civic Field, which is also downtown. But I never been there, never paid attention to it, but I know it's green space, and I personally love green space. So there is another thing that came down the pipe that's going to be talked about at Tuesday's council meeting, is that if council is going to approve selling Hummingbird Park, and that the buyer is actually going to use that for housing. So a lot of people are not happy with either of these two things. They both have trees in common. And of course, one of the things that was being suggested was, well, where's the tree board? We should talk to the tree board about this. Well, can't. Because the two things that actually brings this all together is budgetary issues. So, as with every other city, Edmonds is going through its own budgetary issues, has to make some significant cuts to services, to staffing, all around. So part of the city, I believe, in their selling this park is to kind of create some revenue, generate some revenue to pay down some of the debts that we have. But a lot of people are not happy with this being one of those options to have the park sold. So again, some people say, hey, where's the tree board at? Well, a lot of the boards and commissions for the city were sunsetted this year, and that included the tree board. So here we are. So I know that there are protests going on today, probably tomorrow too, saying save Big Red, don't, save Hummingbird Park. What are the other community spaces like the Francis Anderson Center might be next on the chopping block to be sold and repurposed as something else? It's a large conversation. So I'm going to invite you to go over to your local news outlet that you choose or you are sold on that might be covering this. That could be My Edmonds News or The Beacon or other blogs on the ever, and to kind of find out what's going on here. And if you want to weigh in on that, I would highly suggest writing in to the council if you don't want either of these things to happen. You don't want Big Red to be chopped down. You don't want Hummingbird Park to be sold. What I would say is, I know some people are debating and arguing this online in the comment section of different news stories. That's not going to be the most effective way. There's a way, in my opinion, of doing that, and that is definitely one of them. But you want to email the city council as a whole and show your support or rejection to what's coming down the pipeline that's going to be on their agenda on Tuesday. So I would definitely do that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine as well. But at least when you send it to the city council email address, to the mayor's email address, it becomes a matter of public record that can be pulled up by anyone at any time. So that can show a stronger sense of community and being able to say that you had all these community members that reached out to the city. Now you might be asking yourself, well, if I write them and I say don't do this, what can they do that? Is this already a done deal? Well, the answer is I'm not quite sure, but one, it doesn't hurt, and two, one of the things that could happen to kind of circumvent all of this is an emergency ordinance. And so an emergency ordinance to put a moratorium on cutting down any trees would halt both of these issues, at least for the time being. But it's council, which means that you have 7 people who are making this decision, and you need to have at least 3 of them, at least in this case, to be able to support doing that emergency ordinance to pause this. So that's where it gets political. I think there's 1 or 2 council members that might be open to this, but you got to have more than that to be able to push it through. So I would say email your council members. Again, there's a group email. If you go to the city website, we can get all of them at the same time, and be able to say, hey, we want to encourage a moratorium, an emergency ordinance on this, so that we can kind of have more time to figure out if this is really the viable thing to do. So again, that's just my advice. It's just my opinion. I would definitely try to do that. Now, the other thing that also has to do with budget, and frankly, everything is going to be, is the whole RFA. This is going to require a little bit of education. Now, let me be frank. And so when I started looking at this back in December, January, again, not a lot of people were paying attention to it, and it's just now really getting more people's attention because they're getting closer to this special election for the RFA. I just kind of want to know what was going on with this. Why are we having a special election? What's going on with fire? I thought we were good with that. Well, it has become such an educational experience, at least for me. And I have gotten way more into the weeds on this than I would like to, but I feel like I'm also better for it. And I'm hoping that what I'm going to share with you will be balanced, and that my goal is to just be able to share information on what's going on, and for you, whoever watching this, listening to this, can draw your own conclusion based on your own reading of the information and listening of the information. So, when I say it's an educational thing, a lot of people think that we have our own fire department here in Edmonds, or that we had one not too long ago. The reality is, we haven't had our own City of Edmonds Fire Department since 2009. So it's been a good chunk of time. And then the rest of that time was under Snohomish County Fire, which then turned to South County Fire. And during that time, in 2017, something called an RFA came into fruition, a Regional Fire Authority. So cities within the service area here in South Snohomish County have each come on over a vote over the past few years to become part of this annexation, of the RFA annexation. So, Edmonds right now is the only city that South County Fire serves that is under a contract as opposed to being a part of the RFA, which means if you're familiar with the fact that we have a fire board, a fire commissioners, we don't have access as a city or that representation as a city because we're a contract. It's like being a contract employee versus being on staff. So right now, Edmonds is not on staff with this RFA. And so this election that's coming up next month in April is for this residents of Edmonds to vote whether or not they want to be part of that annexation. Okay, you want me so far? Great. All right, so now there is this ballot measure that's coming up, like I said, and you're either going to vote yes to join the RFA or no, you don't want to do that. Now, what I'm going to do is advise everyone at this point, just to note this website, which is my new nonprofit, Northwest Washington Civic Circle, and on that on my website, there is an actual page that is dedicated to the RFA. Now, why did I want to do this? I really wanted to be able to create conversations where we were listening to all of the parties that are part of this. So we did a community forum where we had members of City Council come and talk about RFA, and then we also had the amazing volunteers here in Edmonds who signed up to be able to write the ballot measure that's both for or against. So one set of volunteers will write the for, the other one will write the con or the against. So we did one with that so that you can meet your neighbors and kind of hear directly from those that are stating their position why you should vote yes or no. We also did another one with the fire chief, Chief Eastman, to talk about what's going on with this, why he thinks this would be a good thing, what are some questions that residents could ask that they can get more clarity on. And then finally, we did one with leadership from the other cities that are part of the RFA. So that's Linwood, Mill Creek, Briar, and Mountlake Terrace. So all three of those conversations are on that website I showed you earlier. So, and other resources that are there, and that's really what it is our RFA resource page. So you go there, you can read what's there, you can listen and watch the videos of what's being said by those who are kind of in the know and in the thick of it, and then be able to decide for yourself when those ballots show up, because ballots drop this week. Be able to use that as an educational resource for you to learn about what's going on. So there is a lot. And I will say that, carve out some time to really kind of try and understand what's going on. I also would highly advise you to, again, go to your news sources like a My Edmonds News or an Edmonds Beacon to kind of get the latest and greatest on what's happening with this. I know the city has been holding town halls around this. Some of those were recorded, so hopefully you'll be able to find access to those as well. I would caution going into the comments without reading the full stories first, because like I said, there's a lot of impassioned people on both sides. But I think as a resident, I wanted to be able to get all the information and not just kind of hone in on one piece without knowing kind of what the larger picture is here. So this is going to be significant. And the one thing I will tell you too, as part of my listening along with all of these, is that the common denominator in this is that our costs as taxpayers in this city is going to go up one way or the other, because again, we're looking at budgetary issues. It's just a matter of how much and how soon. So with that, again, I would say go to northwestciviccircle.org, find our Edmonds RFA community resource page, and hopefully that will help give you some more insight on what's happening around this topic. So thanks for listening in. I hope that this was a little helpful for you about kind of the two big things that are happening this week in Edmonds that are pretty legislative in nature, and how you can be a part or be a voice in what's being decided on this. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Alicia Craig, and I look forward to coming back next week with Edmonds This Week. Take care, everybody.